Hi everyone, glad you could attend. I'll tell you a bizarre, hot story today. Mike Walker, married to Lisa for almost 23 years, started this. Our 3 children are a Stanford-bound girl and 2 early 20s males. Our lives was far from perfect. 12 years ago I noticed I had acquired some weight. I changed a couple things, nothing major. I cut my sugar intake, started working out, and got back to my college football shape. I had a desk job, but my weight hadn't changed in years. A decade. Don't you think my wife would like my recovery? But not exactly. Lisa took it badly. She seemed upset, as if my improvement was a criticism of her. She'd ask if I didn't like her and make snarky remarks. Never once did I suggest she modify her look. I repeated that she was beautiful, but my new routine worried her. I had no clue her concerns were so deep. I was far less than them. As seen, Lisa often compared herself to Katie, Diane, and Jen, our close friends. They were well-read, confident, and fit. They weren't bragging, that was just who they were. Jen had a terrible divorce a few years previously. Her husband was cheating. She left him so fast that his head reeled. After her divorce, I gave Jen emotional support and a loan to keep her business going. Lisa was furious. Jen was unhappy that I encouraged her even though we were friends. I helped her while Lisa was there, so it wasn't like I visited her alone, but it didn't matter. She decided to have her own affair. Best method to handle her emotions. Everything went wrong after that. Lisa's behavior has been odd after Jen's divorce, but not unusual. Even though I was always more interested than she was, our friendship and lifestyles continued. However, looking back, there were warning signs. How I discovered her affair. So trite, it was nearly embarrassing, guy. On business 150 miles from home, there was snow and ice on the roads. My traffic check showed a major highway gridlock. I told Lisa. I phoned to say I would get home an hour or 2 late. Despite her busyness on the phone, she cautioned me to drive slowly. I hung up. Then something unexpected happened. Even a parking valet gave me a tip. He recommended me to take an alternate route to avoid the jam, saving me at least 60 minutes. After following his advice, I got home earlier than expected. Famous strange car was in our driveway as soon as I arrived on our street. This automobile was special. It belonged to Fred Parker, head librarian at Lisa's volunteer library. Fred wasn't the most handsome person. He was fat, unattractive, and in his 40s. I saw his car, and even though I'd never liked him and couldn't see why Lisa would like him, I made the link. I walked to our house after parking my car out of sight. Our long, curving driveway is hard to see from the road since our house is old. I broke in via the back door, took off my shoes, and made it. I quietly climbed the rear steps. Lisa and Fred were talking in the guest bedroom. Lisa added, "The king of training will be here in about an hour and a half, so I've got plenty of time to clean up," but I couldn't understand her. No genius needed to grasp that I was the king of training, even if I never acknowledged it. Her tone indicated she wasn't impressed with my fitness efforts. My inner self gave way. I immediately decided to make Fred accountable for his home activities. I rushed down the rear stairs to the utility section and turned off the main power switches. With a flashlight, I crawled back up, top of the main staircase. Despite the darkness within the residence, I could hear people screaming. Fred said something about being careful as he walked down the stairs. My hand grasped his sneaker and tugged it forward. Fred's scream when he plummeted down those steep steps may have sent chills down my spine. Once and again, he hit the steps hard. After the 3rd or 4th time he stopped talking. I departed before the aftermath. I quickly left the house along the same path, turned on the electricity, and proceeded to a neighboring Starbucks to kill time. After an hour at Starbucks pretending like I had returned to the city, I ordered 2 brownies, one for Lisa and myself. Then I went home. Lisa had left by the time I arrived, but she couldn't hide a small wall patch and a dark blood stain halfway up the stairs. There was blood. I couldn't help smiling. Fred had fallen, and I didn't know his condition, but the blood looked bad. Not wanting to step on blood, I went upstairs. He saw Lisa hadn't changed the guest bedroom bedding. She must have panicked after Fred's little fall. I wrapped the bloody linens in a plastic bag and hid them in the utility room. I called Lisa on her phone and put the Starbucks bag, brownies, on the kitchen table. With quivering voice, she picked up after a few rings. "What the hell are these red stairway patches?" I asked, sounding strong yet anxious. After a long silence, she said, At Memorial Hospital I am." "Fred Thompson, the one from the library, is that right? This is where I had to take him when he fell down the steps." Her voice carried the terror I could hear. "Lisa. What on earth was Fred doing upstairs in our home?" I growled on the phone. She said, "We were, talking about something." "What?" "Lisa, what on earth will I discover when I walk upstairs? You have no business going upstairs." "I'll be back home shortly," she blurted, trying to maintain control. But it was too late. After hanging up, I packed my things into 2 bags, took the blood-stained bedding and Starbucks bill, and headed for a motel. The next day, my friend Jen suggested I meet with a divorce attorney. She was fast, strong, and no nonsense. We discussed my case, and I felt confident that I had a good case due to the bloodstains, affair, and other evidence. After several days, the situation worsened. When the police arrived at my office, they wanted to talk to me about Fred's fall. Even though the police didn't investigate further, I realized my marriage was about to fail. Soon after, I had a strong case for divorce, and Lisa had no chance of escaping this one. Things starting to come together. The divorce went more quickly than I expected. I followed along, pretending to be sad or modest depending on who I was talking to. Now that the truth was out, I felt relief. Jen was one person who, oddly enough, showed some happiness. I was free from the betrayal and ready to move on, and she seemed to be the only one who truly understood how I felt. The divorce was finalized quickly. Lisa received the house and... As you can see, I co-founded a business a few years ago that produced vertical axis wind turbines, which I created. The firm had performed exceptionally well, and I had turned down a very attractive offer to sell it to a large international company just before learning of Lisa's affair. The best part of this agreement was that I didn't have to give Lisa any of the sale proceeds due to special conditions. After learning the whole story, my college students were supportive, but my daughter Emma, who had a strong bond with her mother, was incensed. She didn't understand why I didn't make amends with Lisa. I had to accept that Emma might not get it for a long time, if at all, and that reconciliation was never possible for me. After the divorce was final, I had to get my thoughts straight. I loaded up my Tesla and drove across the country alone. After the turmoil of the past few months, I wasn't sure what I was looking for, perhaps just a little serenity. I eventually arrived in Arizona, close to the Grand Canyon, and decided to go on a guided trip with a guide named Rex down into the canyon. The group included 2 college students, a married couple, and a guide. We hiked all day and then sipped bourbon around the campfire. I told the group a couple of ghost stories that made them nervous, especially Abby, who was listening intently. During one story, I grabbed her shoulders and yelled. She screamed and fled, but it was all in good fun, and we laughed afterwards. Grabbed a rock and ran over to scare the cat, but fortunately nothing too serious. She was shaken, and for the rest of the trip she would only sleep next to me. Liz, Monica, and Liz were especially appreciative. She began flirting more and more over the next few days. The next morning, Monica and Abby had brunch. Abby had seen what had happened and was full of jokes. Monica smiled and added a little remark. Then she drew closer and muttered something that stopped me cold. Liz cheated on Mike when they were married. She is not adaptable. Enjoy yourself, but avoid falling for her. Made sure to stop things there a beautiful time. But nothing more, and that's how my life, which had been a tangled web of deceit and pain, returned to something resembling serenity. It wasn't the life I had envisaged, but it seemed like the one I was meant to lead.